Hey everyone, welcome to monthly project number 34. This month we did a huge collaboration, a massive piece of fan art for Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, which is out now in cinemas and I'm really excited to see it myself. I have a huge art community over at my Patreon. We've done collabs like this before. The first one was a big Marvel tribute. Each of these characters is done by a different artist. I really love that one. And there's also the Spider-Man Villains collaboration. And this was such a fun project, so many talented artists. And then we did a video game character piece. This was a huge collaboration. I really love this one and how it came out. A massive team effort there. And now we've got this piece here. This is what we've come up with for the Spider-Verse piece. For this monthly project, they got to choose a character, a spider person from any universe and any world, any dimension. Let's have a closer look. Really happy with this. Absolutely love that centerpiece there. I made sure Miles and 2099 were right in the middle. They're like the main part of the movie. These are all looking really good. I love Spider-Punk. That is amazing. So let's dive in. We're going to showcase each of these characters. Each month I pick 3 submissions to critique. So we're going to get into these towards the end of the video. So congrats to Jordan, Jose and Dan. These look awesome. I can't wait to dive in. Let's have a closer look at the Spider-Verse submissions. Renee did an amazing job of Miles Morales here. You really nailed that style. It looks straight out of the movie. The best thing I like about this is the pose. It's just so readable. It's super dynamic. It has a great silhouette to it. I love this so much. You've absolutely nailed it. And you also did a second character. This is Spider-Girl. This is phenomenal. I really love this pose. It's very striking. Amazing work as usual, Renee. This is awesome. Paul Cameron got to do Spider-Man 2099. And you absolutely nailed it. I really love the way you've done this. He's such a technical character in the movie. The suit design is really crazy and you've really pulled it off here. I love that. This pose is great too. It really suits him. Leandro chose the Spectacular Spider-Man from the animated series. It's one of my favorite shows. And the way you've done this is so good. I really love it. It's just popping straight off the screen. You should be really proud of yourself with this one. I absolutely love the way you've done this. 10 out of 10. Beautiful work. Sai chose to do Cosmic Spider-Man, and this looks awesome. I love it. The pose is great. The way you've done the suit and the detailing, that Spider-Verse spin on it, came out really well. Awesome work there, Sai. Steven chose Scarlet Spider, one of my absolute favorites, Ben Reilly. And you've really nailed that 90s comic book style, as if he's just been ripped straight out of the comics. And this pose is awesome. I really like that pose. Worked perfect on the main piece up in the top corner there. Amazing work. And Brandon chose to do Arachnido Jr. And this looks great. Really love that Spider-Verse style on it. Especially how you've done the sharp edges of the anatomy. It just makes it super stylized. And the dotted look on the rim lights around the edge looks great. I love this pose. Kaiki has done Pavita Prabhakar. This is the Indian Spider-Man in Across the Spider-Verse. You've absolutely nailed it. I really love what you've done here. This pose is great. I just really love the colors and the way his suit works. Looks fantastic. I really love it. Well done. Next up is Paul, and you've done the Symbiote Spider-Man, the black suit. This is awesome. Really dynamic here. I love it. He looks like he's straight out of the comics as well. It's one of my absolute favorite versions of Spider-Man, so I'm really glad you did this. Awesome work. And Craig, you got to do Spider-Punk and Spider-Werewolf. These are awesome. You've absolutely 100% nailed Spider-Punk there. The Spider-Verse style is just all the way there. The pose, the anatomy and proportions are just absolutely perfect. I really love the werewolf as well. He looks great. And that really dynamic, like animated kind of pose. I love that. These are fantastic. Alright, because there are so many, I'm going to let the rest play out. Enjoy these. There's so many talented artists involved here. And I'm really happy with everyone's submissions here. You've all done an amazing job. Okay, it's time to dive into some critiques now. And I'm going to give some feedback on some artwork. So let's start with Jordan. And you've done Marvel's Spider-Man from the PS4 game, which is also now PS5. One of my absolute favorite games. So I'm really glad to dive into this one. I like what you've done, and I can see that you've been trying out that Spider-Verse style, trying out some new techniques here and there. I think overall, it just comes across a little bit too rough, that's all. Or a little unfinished, maybe. The chest logo here seems quite clear, and I really like the way you've rendered all that, and I'd love to see that consistency go throughout the whole character. But one of the main reasons I picked yours is I feel like the proportions are just slightly off, and I want to show you how we can just make some adjustments. So there's some slight adjustments there, so that's before. And then after, I feel like he really needs to be stretched out a little bit more. And if you look at the face as well, I'll show you before and then after. So before and after. And I feel like those eyes mainly just, they're a little too front on, like facing forward. Whereas they kind of need to wrap around the head a little bit more. Kind of like that. You see how this one here is kind of a lot thinner. If you look at the width of these, so that's wider, that's thinner. That's just because this one here is around that side of the face as the head curves around like a sphere almost. So I feel like before it was just a little bit too front on. They were almost the same kind of shape. And I also gave him a longer head as well, so I kind of shaved off a little bit off the side here. So I shaved off a bit off the side there, made the head a bit longer. Another thing was just with the ankles and things like that, so getting a little thick, and especially this one here. So before, I just felt like there wasn't enough shape through the legs. So if we just thin those out and thin that foot out and stretch it all out, I think that would work really well for proportions wise. I might just play around with some rendering as well, show you some tips. So if I was going to try and do some of the blue rendering there, I think I'd prefer a cell shaded style. Just got a rough, soft shading underneath, but mainly I would go with a sharp shading over the top, just a deeper blue. So if I sample that deeper blue and just focus on that, it's quite rough, but I think I just would like to see this lightened up a little bit. And then over the top, to get that Spider-Verse effect, I'd get a much brighter blue, but with this dotted brush, and then we'll get that nice effect brushing over. And I'm just aiming for any highlights and doing a nice fade in, and then pushing hard as I get in. And this brush is available through my Patreon. And then I'd go over again, closer to the edge, but with a much brighter and lighter version of this brush. Then I'll just use the dodge tool and really brighten those right up to a near white, kind of like that, and really pack that in. I think it just needs a bit of contrast in the shadows area, so I'm getting a really near black kind of dark brush and going through again, and I just feel like it needs more cell shading. It's definitely helped adding a little bit of extra contrast. So something like that, so before and after. I feel like it just needs a little bit more cleaner rendering, that's all. If that was done throughout the red and all of the rest, it'd be really good. It'd just help really bring this to life even more, like making it super clean. I would make any white areas, like on the wrist here, the same brightness and contrast as this white on the chest. And the blacks here, I'd probably just I'd take off that grunge effect and just make a clean, sharp look around the eyes. I think that'd really bring this to life. But yeah, there we go. I hope that helps with those proportions and a bit of rendering fixes there. So yeah, really great work there, Jordan. Yeah, keep it up. Okay, next up is Jose, and you've got Savage Spider-Man here. This is a great addition to the monthly project. I really love this. He looks great. The detailing and the way that you've just done your line work, these colors, everything's just really spot on, absolutely gorgeous. I've got no changes at all to any of the coloring, the rendering, the outlines, the detailing. Have a look at that detailing. I have no changes to any of that. So the reason I picked it is because I feel like it just needs a lot more energy in the pose, or it's too symmetrical. So it's really just too front on, and I think that we can go way more dynamic with this. So I've just drawn over a rough idea of, a pose that we could do for this. Something that, will make it a lot more dynamic and make it stand out a little bit more. So I'm going to just start placing over your artwork now over my rough guide here, and that should help. So there we go. I've just rearranged the character using that sketch that I laid out. I cut all the little pieces off of your character and just rearranged them. And yeah, now we've got this, it's a lot more dynamic. There's a little bit more going on. The legs are kind of flailing out in all different directions. So this was before. So this was before, and that's after. You see the difference, and what I mean, kind of adds more aggression to it as well. I'll just zoom out a little bit. Yeah, I just feel like it was a little too symmetrical, too front on, and I would have loved to see, a bit more dynamic range in there. And that's it, because your work, if you look at your line work and your coloring, is superb. I really love the sketching, the detailing. So the way you've done your line work, all spot on. Very comic-like, very professional. Like, this looks great. Look at that detail in the mouth and the eyes, and especially the hair, everything like that. The fur is amazing. So really the only thing that it needed was you to add a little bit more dynamic range to the pose. And that's it. That's all I've got to say about this. So I hope that helps, Jose. I really love your work, and keep it up. Thanks so much. All right, next up is Dan, and you've done Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man. I love all the texturing that you've got going through here, and the detailing as well. It's a very detailed picture. I think the main problem is there's some proportion and anatomy issues here, so I'm going to go through that. So I'm just going to break him up into sections just so it's easier to manipulate, and I like to do a liquefy in Photoshop. It helps me stretch the character out, and I can just rearrange any of the proportions or the anatomy. And notice how I'm trying to add a little bit more edge to some of the anatomy parts, like the pointier calves, pointier knee bits, I've really lengthened out his torso as well, and especially the legs as well. Really stretched them out, nice and lanky. And now I'm just trying to adjust the head a little bit more. Slightly bigger eyes, less rounded chin, more chiseled, and I think a longer face overall. And I'm also kind of tilting it to the left a little bit more. And then I'm just, the rest is just some slight adjustments here, and then we'll get into it. Okay, so I've just gone over it, basically rearranging the proportions of the anatomy as well, and things like that. So this is what I've come up with. It still needs a lot of fine tweaking. It's just kind of a rough idea of the proportions of what I want. So here's before and after. You can kind of see what I'm getting at here. I really want to have Andrew Garfield to be a lot more lanky. He should be really lanky and spread out a little bit more. And because I love the detailing that you've put into this, and the suit detailing, really good. So if we just fixed up the pose and the structure of him and the anatomy, I think it would just really pull this all together, and it'd be just right. So what I've done is I've reshaped the eyes a little bit, and I've kind of tilted the head down and a little bit to the side. So you can kind of see the other one was dead on, but straight on, and now it's just a little bit to the side, and you get a little bit more skull room up here as well, and that's what we want. And a little less roundness here, so I've kind of chiseled off the jaw a little more, and I got some more shape there. I've also spread out the pose a little more. You see here, I don't like how the web goes over the leg there, and so I've kind of stretched that out so it's away from that, and that way the pose can read a little bit better, and it's just more appealing. And that back arm up there, I really love your pose. You've got a good pose there. I added a thumb in there. So I might just do a bit of a draw over just to refine and help explain this a little bit better of how some of this works, because this arm and the hand here is still quite, it's not clear. So I'm just going through and drawing up a bit of a guide and a structure of Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man here and his limbs, all the anatomy. And I just think it'll be nice to have a clearer look, and hopefully it helps you a little bit more as well. And I'm also trying to put some contour lines through here as well for more guidance. That'll show you, I find contour lines are really good for showing which direction the limb is facing, and just all the little bumps and things that we need to know. Alright, so now that I've got that, I want to focus on this hand. So with any picture that has a hand pointing at you or doing something interesting, it's really important to make sure we focus on the details there, because that'll be the focal point. That'll be where people probably will look first. So you want to make sure the hands look really good. So I'm going to start with the palm and draw that underneath. Sometimes it is good to draw, even the parts that you're not going to see first. So I'm drawing the palm section. That'll be where the thumb will come out of. And then let's draw the other section, which is above the top section of the palm here, which will be more like this, and it's going to fold up. And I always like to draw it this kind of shape. So up and around, and I'll try and treat it like a 3D object. So something like that, and then we're going to have all the four fingers kind of coming out of that there, and you can kind of see the shape. It's like a bit bendy almost, and if I draw some lines here to show you the direction, that might help you a little bit there as well. And the palm at the bottom is broken into two sections. You've got this big bit of meat here, and then the other lower part there, which can tuck under. We're not going to see that anyway. But let's poke that thumb right out. You want to kind of make sure you got some knuckles too. So put a little bump there, and then we'll have a bit of a cylinder shape here. So if I remove that part there, and there we go, we'll do a cylinder shape. I'll try and draw contours, and then a nice big thumb poking out on the end of that. Something like that. And I'll keep drawing some contours. And then we'll focus on these other ones up here as well. So like I said, really pay attention to every little joint, every detail of the finger. Make it look, let's make it look the best we can possibly do. So the finger's broken up into 3 sections. So 1, 2, and 3. So we'll do that, and we'll have the tip of the finger there. And I'm kind of stylizing it a little bit. And obviously each joint bends, in its own way. So that's another thing to keep in mind. Let's draw that one, and then the other end pinky first. So again, I'm going to try and draw a knuckle on the end, and then a cylinder type that'll come out this way. Bit of a knuckle there as well, but cylinder. And then we'll draw the tip of the finger curling back up like a pinky does. Now I can start to remove, and erase that middle section, because I'm going to start to draw the main other 2 fingers. So wherever they pop out, so we'll go the knuckle. Let's shape the knuckles, because they're going to be seen quite clearly here. So we'll shape the knuckles in 1 and 2, just like 2 little mountains, and then I'll try and get those cylinder shapes coming out. So one cylinder can go here. You can even do a little bowl on the end for where the knuckle goes. And another cylinder there, and you can even just draw a little circle in the end where the knuckles are going to go, and then that's going to bend in a totally different other direction down here. So we'll have the other cylinder point downwards, and you can kind of see what I'm getting at there. And then the other one finally is going to bend in and press inside the middle of the hand there, and you can draw another little circle for where the knuckle will be. So that's a really good way to make sure you focus on those hands and structure. Good to look up some guides and tutorials. I've actually done a hand tutorial with this exact thing, so feel free to have a look at that as well. Then I'll bring back our underneath sketch there, and I'll just make sure that hand looks a bit more visible. So notice how I've made sure the wrist is showing as well, and the wrist is clearly seen behind the hand. That's what we want to make sure as well. And I'd like to place that hand down a little much lower there. There we go. I think that'll be fine. I'd probably even go out a little bit more, even make sure that thumb has a little bit of room to breathe there away from the body. I like that. So there we go. There's the structure there. and there is the you know, the warped version of that with all of the details involved. So you can kind of get a sense of how it could look with the right proportions, and then you can get a nice clearer look of the structure here. So hopefully that helps you. Let's have a look at the original. So that from before I started, there we go, and now. So that's before and after. So you can kind of see what I mean there. I just feel like we needed to have more structure in the character overall. And your details are great, by the way. So it's really just about the structure. All right, thank you so much. I hope that helps. Dan, you're awesome. Love your work. Keep it up. All right, that is a wrap for this monthly project. I hope you liked that one. I really enjoyed that. I'm so excited for the movie. I'm actually going to see it tomorrow. I can't wait. It's such a fun art style, very inspirational. I'm very inspired by it as well. And I know you all had a lot of fun with it, so it's been really great to see all this. And if you're new to my monthly projects, feel free to join my Patreon, and you can actually jump on board these. It's really good motivation for any artist. I always try to keep the themes interesting and a lot of fun, and it's all about growth as an artist. You can head on over to patreon.com/Patrick Brown. All right, thanks for watching everyone. I'll see you next time.